What up, Raf leaders? Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to bring you up to date on what is happening with the value of the Guyana dollar in 2023. Now, this is around the time when the fourth quarter report for the Natural Resource Fund, that is the Sovereign Wealth Fund, should be released. Now, I haven't been able to see that yet. I'm going to go check the Bank of Guyana quarterly report and see if what I predicted about the value of the fund, the Sovereign Wealth Fund, has come to pass, right? I predicted that it would surpass $1 billion by the first quarter of 2023, and in fact it was shown in the last report that the fund had already reached $1 billion, right? So the Guyana Sovereign Wealth Fund is now over $1 billion. That is the amount of money being held at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York in Guyana's account is now over $1 billion. And that's despite the fact that the government extracted about $600 million during 2022 to fund its operations, right? All the building of roads and the giving out of cash grants, all of that was funded by $600 million from the Sovereign Wealth Fund. So we're beginning to see real gains from the oil and gas industry, right? Now remember, this is the same government that said Guyana signed a bad contract and that it was only a 2% contract, and they managed to oust the coalition by promulgating all of these lies and propaganda about the oil and gas industry. However, it should be clear to everyone now that the oil and gas industry is profiting Guyana very, very well. We get about 52% of the profits from the oil and gas industry, and if you go check, I have in many previous videos given you my calculation of how I arrived at this 52%, and now Exxon has confirmed it, right? They have billboards all around Georgetown now explaining to the Guyanese people that Guyana is getting 52% of the profits from oil and gas. But the question is, why is the value of the Guyana dollar not rising? Now, I made also another video explaining all the factors that go into the rise in the value of the Guyana dollar. And recently, I went to a vendor day, a U.S. Army vendor day seminar at the Ramada Hotel and Princess Casino on the East Bank of Demerara, where I was able to assess the increasing presence of the U.S. military in Guyana, right? They're now going to be conducting what seems to be joint operations with the Guyanese Defense Force, Guyana Defense Force, and what appears to be military base, a U.S. military base, is being established here at Camp Stevens in Timeri. Now, I have some videos coming up where I plan to return to Timeri and do some follow-up on the airport and the new Marriott Hotel and a number of construction projects, including hotels, the Best Western on Robb and Ornock Street. There's a number of new hotels going up on the bypass, the East Bank bypass road at Houston, which I've shown you, and then a number of hospitals and hotels going up near Ogle Airport, which I showed you in previous videos. And of course, there are a number of roads being built and expanded. I showed you the expansion of the train line road, right? So that road is being widened and plan is expanded. So all of these are significant infrastructure development projects, and the presence of the U.S. military in Guyana also tells you that there's some amount of investment in at least the American oil extractive industry, right? Because ExxonMobil is a big part of America's oil and gas industry, and they're operating in Guyana. The U.S. military is down here to protect U.S. interests. And so this tells you that there's a fair amount of activity and confidence in the Guyana economy. But why is the Guyana dollar still not rising? That's the question. And I'm positing at least 3 reasons. One is that the government of Guyana has not prioritized the rise of the Guyana dollar, right? We've heard the president and the vice president say in the past that, you know, the Guyana dollar should not rise because they want to keep the competitiveness of the Guyana export industry, Guyanese manufacturing. That the Guyana dollar will not rise precipitously or quickly or immediately, right? When the president says something like this, it sends the message that the president of Guyana and the Guyanese economic team is not prioritizing the rise in the value of the Guyana dollar. So that is one reason why the value of the Guyana dollar has not risen, because the government of Guyana has not prioritized the rise of the Guyana dollar. Secondly, the second reason why the Guyana dollar has not yet risen is because of the flow of capital out of the economy. So what's happening is that a lot of Trinidad companies, for example, doing business in Guyana, and a lot of local companies in partnership with international companies doing business in Guyana, and what they are doing is removing as quickly as they earn it the foreign currency out of the market, right? So they're basically shipping their profits, the US dollar profits, abroad, and the US dollars that Guyana earns from oil and gas is not really entering the economy in a big way. It's actually sitting in a bank account in New York, in Federal Reserve Bank in New York. So as long as there is an outflow, a net outflow of US dollars from the Guyana economy, that basically means that the Guyana dollar is not being utilized. The money is not being circulated. In other words, people are not using US dollars to buy Guyana dollars so that they can do business in Guyana, that they can pay laborers, so that they can buy commodities in Guyana dollars, right? So the Guyana dollar is not rising because a lot of the US dollars is being extracted from the US economy, when in fact those US dollars should be actually going to buy Guyana dollars and to increase the demand for Guyana dollars. I've actually said that you shouldn't be able to trade your Trinidad currency for US dollars or at the Central Bank of Guyana. They should make you first convert it to Guyana dollars and then use the Guyana dollars to buy US dollars. That actually makes the demand on Guyana dollars increase and basically drives the value of the Guyana dollar. That is the value of the Guyana dollar of the US against the US dollar up, right? So that would be one way to do it. But that is the second reason why, because a lot of the US dollars being earned in Guyana's economy is flowing back out. It's not remaining in Guyana, right? The third reason I think is also very significant, and that is that labor is still cheap and inflation is still high, right? So because inflation really is a form of devaluation, right? So inflation is a form of devaluation of your local currency because it can purchase less and less. And while it just appears to happen locally, in other words, people in Guyana going to the border market or to the supermarket or to Starbucks market to buy commodities are actually paying more in Guyana dollars for the same amount of products. You know, for example, during Christmas season, beef was being sold for about $800 a pound compared to about $400 a pound the year before. Pork was being sold for over $800 a pound compared to $400 the year before. Eggs are still actually very expensive. Eggs are now selling at $1,800 a tray of 30, when in fact the year before they were selling at about $900 a tray. So eggs have doubled in price. So the inflation rate is now about 50% or 100%. 100% on some items and a little less on others. So the average inflation rate is over 50% in Guyana, and that actually has the effect of driving down the value of Guyana dollar, right? So the reasons why the Guyana dollar is not rising in value right now is because the political powers that be are not prioritizing the strengthening of the Guyana dollar, and two, because the outflow of US dollars from the economy as fast as it's earned is keeping Guyana dollar low, basically sidelining Guyana dollar. And 3 is because of inflation. Labor costs remain low, but the price of commodities, the price of goods and services continues to rise, and that has the effect of driving down the value of the Guyana dollar. So what has to happen is that the government has to prioritize the rise of the value of the Guyana dollar, and there are a number of things that you can do to do that. In fact, I suggested some of them in the past. I'm going to make another video in the next video explaining what actually has to be done, because the rise of the value of the Guyana dollar is actually important. It's one of the ways to combat inflation. If you increase the value of the Guyana dollar, then the price you pay for items in the store will decrease, right? Because the value of the Guyana dollar is getting stronger. It's one of the ways to ensure that there is a general pay raise for everybody in the economy, because if the value of the Guyana dollar goes up, then basically you can get more for the money you spend. You'll be able to fly abroad, your airline tickets will be cheaper, you'll be able to spend abroad, the things you purchase from abroad that is with Guyana dollars will be less, because when you convert it to US dollars, you get more US dollars because the value of the Guyana dollar is higher, right? So if you're converting from Guyana dollars to US dollars, you will get more US dollars if the value of the Guyana dollar rises. And that has the effect of giving everyone a pay raise. So it's something that should be prioritized. It's just that the government has not prioritized it yet, and we're going to look into reasons why and how it can be done in future videos. If you have any questions and suggestions about why the value of the Guyana dollar has not risen yet, leave them in the comments below. And in the comments below, tell me what you think about this situation in Guyana, where all of this activity is happening, all the building and construction is happening, but the value of the Guyana dollar continues to be depressed, continues to stay low. All of these earnings, you know, the Guyana Natural Resource Fund, that is the Sovereign Wealth Fund, has reached over $1 billion, but the value of the Guyana dollar remains low. This doesn't make sense, and the reason why it doesn't make sense is because the government hasn't prioritized it. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening here in Georgia and Guyana. Later!